After the young man was taken, a thick blanket of fear smothered the village. The fields bordering the jungle, once green and full of life, were left to rot. No one dared to get too close, not anymore. At night, the tiger's roar would roll down from the hills, a deep, guttural sound that seemed to vibrate in your very bones. It was a sound that stole sleep, leaving every man, woman, and child staring into the oppressive darkness of their huts. The elders, their faces etched with the wisdom of generations, would whisper stories around flickering fires. They said this was no ordinary animal. It was a cursed spirit, a demon spawned from the sins of humanity, now trapped in the form of a beast, forever doomed to prowl the forest. They warned that a creature like this doesn't hunt just for food. It hunts for souls. It would never be satisfied. It would return again and again to feast on the living. One evening, the sky was a sheet of inky black, the moon and stars choked out by heavy clouds. A hunter, a man known for his pride and his stubbornness, scoffed at the elders' tales. He believed in what he could see and touch, and tonight he wanted boar meat. Arming himself with a sharpened spear, he ignored the pleas of his family and strode into the black maw of the forest. The silence in there was different, heavier. It pressed in on him, the only sounds being the soft crunch of his own footsteps and the frantic thumping of his heart against his ribs. Then he heard it, a low growl that seemed to come from the ground itself. His torch, his only shield against the night, sputtered and flickered wildly. In the dancing shadows just beyond the light, 2 points of fire ignited, burning, hateful eyes. The hunter opened his mouth to scream, but the sound was devoured by the vast, indifferent forest. When the first light of dawn broke, a search party was formed. Anxious villagers fanned out into the jungle, calling his name until there. Voices were hoarse. They didn't find him. All they found was his spear, its tip buried in the soft earth, and his shirt ripped to shreds and stained with a dark, wet crimson. From that day forward, the whispers of the elders were treated as gospel. The village finally understood the terrible truth. This wasn't a problem that could be ignored or waited out. The spirit tiger would never stop its hunt. Its insatiable hunger, its ancient curse, would continue to plague them, casting a long shadow of death over their lives, until someone somewhere found the courage to face the beast and finally break the spell that bound it to the forest. The weight of this realization fell heavily on every shoulder. Who could possibly face such a demon? The village's best hunter was gone. The men who worked the fields were farmers, not warriors. Despair began to creep in, a slow poison seeping into the community's heart. Children no longer played near the edge of the village. Their laughter was replaced by a hushed caution. The vibrant pulse of daily life slowed to a fearful, rhythmic waiting, waiting for the next roar, waiting for the next disappearance. It was during this time of collective gloom that a young woman named Elara began to have strange dreams. Elara was the village healer's apprentice, a quiet girl with eyes that saw more than most. In her dreams, she didn't see the tiger as a monster. She saw a tormented soul, wreathed in shadows and fire, crying out not in rage, but in agony. She saw visions of an ancient ritual, a pact gone wrong, and a noble warrior betrayed, his spirit twisted into the very thing he had sworn to protect his people from. She tried to share these visions, but the villagers were too consumed by their fear. They dismissed her dreams as nightmares, the product of a stressed mind. "Don't speak of such things, child," the elders would say. "To think of the beast is to invite it closer." But Elara couldn't shake the images. The dream felt more real than her waking hours, the warrior's pain her own. She began to spend her days poring over old scrolls in the healer's hut, searching for any mention of curses, spirit bonds, or ancient pacts. One afternoon she found it, a brittle, half-eaten scroll that described a guardian's curse. It spoke of a powerful protective spirit that, if betrayed by the people it guarded, could become a shadow walker, a vengeful entity bound to hunt the descendants of those who had wronged it. The scroll detailed that the curse could only be broken not by a spear or a sword, but by an act of pure atonement. The betrayal had to be undone. A debt of spirit had to be repaid. The scroll didn't say what the original betrayal was, or how one might atone for the sins of ancestors long dead, but it gave Elara something no one else in the village had, a glimmer of hope. It gave her a purpose beyond just hiding and waiting. She knew then what she had to do. She couldn't fight the tiger with weapons, but perhaps she could fight the curse with knowledge and empathy. That night, as the tiger's roar echoed once more from the darkened woods, it sounded different to Elara. She still heard the threat, the raw hour that made the ground tremble, but underneath it all, she could now hear something else, a deep, mournful cry for release, the cry of the trapped warrior from her dreams. Armed with this new understanding, Elara began to prepare. She gathered herbs not for healing wounds, but for rituals of purification and communion. She studied the phases of the moon and the alignment of the stars, as described in the old texts. She was planning to do the unthinkable. She was not going to hunt the beast. She was going to confront the spirit. She knew the villagers would think she was insane. She knew they would try to stop her. So she worked in secret, her heart a frantic drum of fear and determination. This was no longer just about saving the village. It was about freeing a tormented soul, about righting a wrong that had festered in the darkness for far too long. The forest was no longer just a place of terror, it was a place of answers. And as the next full moon approached, Elara knew she would have to walk into that darkness, not with a spear, but with a plea for forgiveness on her lips, ready to face the spirit tiger and offer the atonement that could save them all, or die trying. The fate of the village and the soul of the cursed warrior now rested on her shoulders. She looked out at the jungle, a black wall under the pale moonlight, and took a deep breath. The end of the curse was coming, one way or another. Thanks for sticking with us through this chilling tale. If you love stories that send a shiver down your spine, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more legends from the shadows. We've got plenty more stories to tell. Let us know in the comments what you think Elara should do next. We'll see you in the next one.